Okay, in this code along, we're going to take our RGB Colors web page that we built, and we're going to add interaction to it with JavaScript. So where we can get the input elements, when we click the preview button, we can get these input elements and then change the RGB color that it's currently set at, and also preview the color here in the background. Okay, let's take a look at that. So I'm going to go to Replit, My REPLs, so I think I had it there, CS10, RGB Colors. Okay, so first things first again, we need to add that script.js file that I deleted earlier. Okay, and we need to make sure we load that JavaScript file. So for example, if you don't do this, right, you might say, okay, let's just test out this JavaScript file, and I'll say alert hi. And I'll run the page, and it'll be like, wow, look at that beautiful page. There it is, but how come it didn't alert? Run, refresh, nothing's happening. And you'll be like, Mr. Velkamp, why isn't my code working? So make sure you double check that, oh, at the end of the body here, I need to make sure I load my JavaScript file. Okay, we do that with a script tag, with a source attribute of the name of the file, and then we close that script tag. Okay, and make sure that that source is in the opening. Sometimes I have students that put it inside of the middle here, but it's an attribute that should be inside of the opening tag. Okay, and now when I run this, there it is, says hi. Okay, so that's a quick little test. If your program's not working, sometimes just throw in a little quick message at the top just to say, hey, is my JavaScript even running? You're like, how come it's not working? Okay, so just do this and it should work. Okay, so I'm going to give this program a title again, RGB Colors with JavaScript by Mr. V. Okay, and the first thing I want to do is I want to set up the event listener. When I click this button, something's got to happen. Okay, so I often like to add a comment here, event listener, and we'll go document.getElement by ID, and I have no idea if that button has an ID or not. And where is it? Preview. Here's the button. It does not have an ID. So we need to go ID, and I'll just go preview BTN, like that. Or in IDs, we're allowed to do hyphens, and it seems like that's a common practice from what I've seen from programmers, is that IDs doing a little hyphen there. But remember, in JavaScript variables, we're not allowed to do dashes like that. You can do underscores, but usually we do like the camel casing. Anyway, the ID is preview-btn. So in here, I will select that, preview-btn. And then we want to add an event listener, click, and the name of a function. We haven't made a function yet. So let's think about what we want to call it. Right, we want to define an event function. And maybe this will be RGB preview, like so. Right, so keyword function, the name of the function, parentheses, braces. Okay, and then here I give it the name RGB preview. Okay, let's make that a little smaller so it can fit on the line. Okay, so remember that this selects the element and says, hey, when I click this element, run the whatever's inside of this function. So let's just test that and say RGB preview in an alert. So I run that, I click, click, click. When I click the button, okay, good, it works. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm trying to show you incremental programming. I add a little piece of functionality and then I test it to make sure it works. And then I can move on to the next part. Because that really helps us know, like, well, where is the mistake? If I wrote a bunch of code inside of this function, my mistake might have been just that, oh, I had the wrong name. I spelled this wrong. And the function's not even running. But I might think the mistake's somewhere in the code inside the function. So it's good to kind of test as you go along. Okay, so now what do I want to do inside of this function? Well, this is a classic input, process, output algorithm, right? When I hit that preview, I want to get the RG, the red, green, and blue values, right? My process is I'm going to build the RGB string, right? That RGB bracket, like that's basically this right here. So I have to put that together as a string, right? Take these numbers and build that string. And then my output will be display the RGB string and also update the color preview. Okay, so this is my planning, right? This is my algorithm. What do I need to do to complete this program? Well, when I click this button, I'm going to get the inputs, I'm going to build the string, and then I'm going to use that string to output the result on the page. Okay, so let's start with the inputs. So these input elements need IDs on them. So let's go here. And, oh, actually, you know what? Stop, sorry. That is totally what I want to do, but I forgot that just to keep things a little simpler, what I'd like to do in this video is actually first build this program using prompt and alert. And then we'll add the input elements and the outputs and stuff. So let's try that. So let R value be assigned prompt, enter a value for red. Okay, and I'm just going to hit Control C and then Control V 2 times. RGB, and this will prompt enter a value for green, enter a value for blue. Okay, cool. And then I'm tempted to test it here. Like I could do a console.log R value, just like I said about incremental programming, but you know what, we're going to test it right here anyway. So let's do this. Let RGB string be assigned RGB bracket, right? So RGB bracket, and then I have to put in the number that goes into there. So that's where I do a plus the R value, plus I need a comma, and then usually we put a space in there, plus the G value, plus a comma and then a space, plus the B value, plus finally that end bracket, semicolon. And then our output is simply going to do alert RGB string so that we can test, hey, did this work? Did I get the right values? Did I build the string properly? And I get my output. Okay, let's try that. Run, 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 run. Oh, so I'm expecting it to do the prompt right away, but of course we put it inside of this function and it's waiting for me to hit preview. So preview, okay, red will be 0, green will be 255, and blue will be 255. And green and blue give us this RGB 0, 255, 255. Okay, beautiful. Let's try that again. 120, 120, 120. Yay! Okay, that is the essential functionality. I'm getting the inputs and storing them in variables. I'm using those variables to process, like put together the string, and then I'm outputting the string. Okay, that's super easy. And if you can do that, that's basically structured programming 1. Although we're going to do some calculators too. We're getting text input here. When we do calculations with numbers and stuff, we'll do some examples with that too. But anyway, I'm going to stop here, and in the next video, we'll add the input elements and displaying it on the page. But this is essentially the algorithm, input, process, output. Okay, hope that made sense. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.